Start now?
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome, and thanks for making today a priority. So we've got an online session on engaging and retaining people through culture. So my name is Simone Delane. I'm based out of Adelaide, in sunny Adelaide. The weather's beautiful here today, and I understand it's beautiful around the country. So we've all been very lucky and had lovely weekends. I'd like to also introduce our other facilitators here with us today. We've got Brendan from Victoria. We've got Aaron from Queensland and Craig from Queensland, if you can see them on the screen. We've got Andy from Sydney.
Hello.
And we've also got Anna from Melbourne as well. So welcome to everybody. We're going to jump into breakout rooms today. Prior to joining Leading Teams, I was a people and culture manager for 20 years. I worked for Nova Entertainment, Owens Castley Real Estate and the Port Adelaide Football Club. I'm really passionate about engagement and retention and understand that it's a challenge across all industries. The competition to retain talent has never been more fierce, and we hear that with our clients daily. So high-performing teams are made up of people who are committed and accountable. Keeping these people engaged and retaining them is critical to shaping your organisation's culture and driving performance. So today we're going to discuss some strategies on how you can improve those in your teams. There'll be practical tools that ensure that at the end of 90 minutes, everyone walks away with ideas and strategies to help your organisation's performance. Before we jump into it, just a couple of housekeeping things. So these will be interactive sessions. So we just ask if you can please remove any distractions so that you're really present. Anna has got everybody on mute, which will unmute you during the breakout sessions because they will allow for more fluid conversations and it will be interactive. What I'm going to do now is just take you through this slide here. So this is a SEEK study, Laws of Attraction study, which shows the drivers of attraction and retention. So we can see here that salary here is 3 in 5 candidates look for salary in the job ad. We know that competitive remuneration is really important around attracting, engaging and retaining our people. We also know that flexibility is a huge driver. Flexible working, work-life balance, particularly post-pandemic. But what we want to focus on today is around culture. So this study shows that 73% of candidates place importance on a positive workplace culture. So it's about thinking about how are we engaging and retaining our people through culture? How are we connecting our people to our behaviours and values in our organisations and the purpose so that they feel part of something? So let's move now to, I want to talk you through employee turnover costs. A lot of you know these, and there's a lot of different stats out there, but we know that employee turnover costs have a significant impact on your bottom line and your culture. The stats are somewhere between 30 to 150% of a person's salary, which is a really large range. We understand that. 30% is more towards an entry-level role. Senior roles are coming close to more that 150%. So just splitting those down there, the direct costs we know about is obviously internal recruitment costs, our advertising, shortlisting, interviewing, reference checking. And then there's recruitment agency fees. We know that some recruitment agencies are charging 15 to 20% of salaries, sometimes higher. And then there's termination, administration and exit interviews. Where we want to focus really is around the indirect costs. We understand what the direct costs are, but the indirect cost is around the loss of productivity and performance. So during notice period, when someone gives notice, other employees in the team absorbing working loads, the impact on the ability to achieve targets and goals. We also know that it typically takes up to 6 months for a new employee to be fully competent. Then there's onboarding and training costs and the impact on reputation with clients and also attracting other people to your business with your reputation. So all of these things are factors that we need to think about. But one of the biggest things is about the impact on culture. So what's happening when people are leaving our business? How are people behaving? And then what's the impact to engagement of our current employees? What are the things people are saying on departure? How are other people feeling? So to that end, what I'm going to do now is hand you over to Aaron. He's going to step you through our high-performing teams model. And then following that, we're going to jump into some breakout groups.
Thanks, Simone. So Simone's really covered the topic we're going to be discussing really well there. So this model, I guess everything we do at Leading Teams lives within this model, and at the top you'll see what a high-performing team needs is high-performing leaders. As we go through today, I'd like you to reflect on the performance. If you're a leader or the leaders within your business, how they're performing and what impact they're having on the team, because we know leaders that model, reward and challenge have the greatest impact. If you're missing one of those things, you might be less impactful. We know leaders model, so that's, if you decide to pick the rubbish up, you pick the rubbish up yourself. But then rewarding and challenging might be saying, well done for picking the rubbish up, or hey, I saw you walk past the rubbish. A really simple example there. It actually came out of one of our clients. They decided to do that. It was a car dealership, very snazzy car dealership. They were all in their suits, and the leaders used to walk in their suits, picking up the rubbish that the drunks had sort of left in the car yard the night before. So for a rookie, when we talk about induction, recruitment, and then retention, the rookie or the new person walking into that business is really clear on what the expectations are, because they're seeing the leaders walk into it themselves, and obviously they follow suit. So getting your leaders' performance in shape is your first step to a high-performing team. The next bit is then making sure everyone's aligned to a common purpose. Common purpose is incredibly powerful. The most powerful part of it eliminates the questions of why. So why are we doing this? Why does this department exist? Why is this person doing that? We want to make sure that we're all clear on why we're doing that. And we've seen lots of businesses lose their way when you can look through the list of royal commissions and find out where the why has been disconnected with the behaviour or the performance of that organisation. I'll point to the banks. The banks, most of them say we're here for the customer, but obviously some of their behaviours led more towards the shareholder, and that's led to behaviour that's obviously landed them in a royal commission. So understanding if we're here to be the most trusted bank in Australia, or if we're here for our customers and that is the purpose we exist, then how are we actually performing in line with that? And do we talk about it? Do we review it? Do we use it? And then, as you can sort of see, it splits into two areas, and the mechanics on the left there is KPIs, strategies. Everyone's got a strategic plan. It's just whether you actually do it or not. There's technical skills, so we've all got skills, and we'll talk a lot about trying to attract skills and retain highly competent people. And then we have our processes. But on the right-hand side is a big piece that actually helps drive those mechanics. So when we talk about dynamics and mechanics, there's two separate pieces. So the mechanics is sort of the what you do. The dynamics is how you do it. So if you've got a strategic plan, do you buy into it? If you've got a bunch of skilled people in your team, do you work together, or are you working in silos? Are you backstabbing each other? Are you having open and honest conversations? Are you collaborating? All these things are behaviours that drive whatever mechanics you have. And if you're sort of looking underneath, if you were to break it down into, okay, we want to have strong dynamics, we want strong cultures and behaviours, culture and behaviours. We like to move into really three simple areas that you can focus on. Is on the right there is that agreed behavioural framework. So this is the piece we'll ask you to start to think about this in a minute. This is your values or your behaviours that as a company or an organisation you've decided to commit to. The really important part for empowerment, which we are an empowerment model, is that word agreed. Are your values just painted on the wall and never spoken about, never agreed to? Are they driven from the top down with no opportunity for buy-in from others? Or is this something that everyone sees value in and will strive towards and believe in, and will actually hold stock in and help motivate them to increase their performance? So when we talk about an agreed behavioural framework, these are what are the values, what are the behaviours that are in place that we agree to make our business or our organisation high performing. And what that does is just give us a bit of consent around how we behave, some sort of agreement on, okay, well, this is what we do here, because we know within every group there's culture. So I'll use my example. I've got friendship groups that behave differently. And that we don't necessarily have an agreed behavioural framework, but there is some sort of natural way that we've come to behave. And what we're trying to do is instead of making that unconscious decision on how it is we behave together, it's making a really conscious decision on this is what we do here, and this is what it takes to be part of our team. And we'll help you do that by giving you feedback or helping you or rewarding you when obviously you do it really well. So that's one bit we'll talk about a little bit, a fair bit in a little while. On the left is that strong professional relationship. So there's a lot of literature around psychological safety and social capital, but what we're really just talking about is, do you have mutual trust and respect between your colleagues? We're obviously talking about leader down to followers, but as important when it comes to empowerment is colleague to colleague, sideways, upwards, downwards. So we're trying to make sure there's high levels of trust and respect within the team so that we can just engage in open and honest conversations. And as you can see down the bottom, genuine conversations, if we make sure we've got high levels of trust and if we have some agreement around how we behave, that just eliminates any blockers that might, or most blockers that might be in the way for us having an open and honest, genuine conversation. And I use the example at Leading Teams. I think it was about 15 years ago. We had a young woman as a new receptionist in our business. I think she'd only been there for 6 months, and she was quite timid. And she went to a meeting with our two founders, Ray and Harry, or Ray and Craig Grimes. And this meeting was with with a large organisation that was going to generate a lot of mechanics for our business. We were much smaller back then. And this was quite a pivotal moment for our business in terms of our strategic plan and our KPIs, etc. So they went to the bank, and Ray and Harry, being, I don't know, they might have been 50 odd back then, they thought they did okay. Down coffee with Nikki at the cafe afterwards and sort of, geez, I think that went pretty well. How do you think we went, Nikki? And Nikki just sort of sipped a tea and just sort of looked over and said, oh, I don't feel like you guys are at your best today. And in most businesses, a receptionist at 6 months telling the two founders that they underperformed might lead to getting back on that seek slide that Simone showed earlier, and she might be out of a job. But it was really clear at that time that I know at Leading Teams, we have an agreed behavioural framework around being open and honest and giving feedback to one another. And there must have been some safety within that relationship for her to contradict, I guess, their views. They'd professed that they thought they went all right, but she thought, well, no, actually, I think you could have done better. So as leaders of the business, they had a choice to accept that and to be curious, or to respond and be quite reactive. And obviously, hopefully in our organisation, they were curious and said, well, what'd you notice, Nikki? So I noticed you swore, Ray, and they didn't like that. And Harry, you spoke over them a few times, and I could see their body language there. So Ray was able to pick up the phone and sort of say, oh, geez, I'm really sorry. We get really excited and I think we can really help you. We're really aligned. And they ended up getting the work. So what we noticed there, if you sort of put a big circle around the dynamics, they had really strong dynamics within that team that then helped drive the mechanics. They were able to hit their strategic plan. They were able to meet their KPIs. They were able to recruit more technical skills within their business, etc., based on a dynamic that exists within their team. So what we're hoping this presents you as you go through is you start to think about your culture and what are some blockers or what are some drivers that are actually helping you with your engagement and retention. Because if you go to the next slide, if we could, Anna, or Simone, whoever's driving this, is the cylinder model. So what you'll find here, we've talked a lot about culture at the bottom. So you can see at the bottom of this cylinder model, there's entry, and at the top, there's exit. So to be really clear, obviously we all enter a business, and to be as clear, we all exit a business at some point. So it's being really clear about what type of legacy you want to leave, what type of impact you've had. Are you the person where they're saying, oh, geez, we miss that person so much, we're still doing things they implemented 10, 15 years later? Or are you that person that, I know you can all think of one where you go, geez, thank God he or she's gone. They were so. So you can think of that, but a lot of that comes, or that whole legacy comes off how you behave while you're in there. So there's a lot of elements that go to giving you a chance to behave as you enter. There's obviously a culture, and people say, oh, culture might be we work together, or culture could actually be working together or not working together. It can be a toxic culture, it could be a high-performing culture. And what we say, it's just the unconscious behaviours and standards that people accept or that people assimilate with to fit in with those around them. So what we're trying to do is make sure that when you understand your culture, are they aligning with the words on the wall? Are they aligning with your trademark or your values or the behaviours that you talk about? Because what we'll see as we go through this, what's more impactful is what actually happens rather than what we say. And the most powerful people in your culture, or the most influential people in your culture, are your leaders. So basically, if you have a strong leadership that aligns with the culture you're aiming for, you're more likely going to have others follow that, and you're going to have those weighted numbers moving in that direction. I know when you walk into a team, you get a sense of what it's like, but you can also pick out who the most influential people are, and they get to choose how they influence. So leadership, when we talk about leadership, might not necessarily be a manager. It could be people with influence. So it could be someone in a middle role that doesn't have any responsibility of reporting lines, but geez, they have people that follow them. So are they aligned with our culture? Are they behaving in the direction we want? And are we clear with what culture we have? Because then it makes the other pillars much easier. We recruit in line with our culture. So when we recruit, are we looking for the best talent, or are we looking for people that align with the behaviours and the standards that we accept within our business? Because they both exist. One doesn't cancel out the other. It's just whether we're blinded by talent and just go for the best resume, or are we actually looking for people and testing people to make sure they fit in or add to what we already have? Because this part we're sort of talking about here, the recruitment also leads to retention. Like who are we retaining? Are we retaining people that are productive for our business, or are we retaining talent just because they're talented but they're horrendous for our culture? So that then leads to how after recruitment we then induct our people. So they come into a business and we might have the HR manager sitting there saying, hey, we're really honest, we're really open, and we trust each other. And that could be the sheet of paper that you're given. But you come in and the first minute you see two people at the water cooler having a whinge about someone over there, or you see someone not being open and honest. The most powerful part about induction is not necessarily the formal induction by your leader or the HR manager. It will be what you see. I can give you an example. When I worked at a property development company, the HR manager said, when you go out onto site, fill in this form, you'll be reimbursed for your kilometres that you take going off site, and make sure you do that every week and send it through to me and log it when you leave, when you get back, all that. The next day I went with my boss, he didn't log it. The next day he didn't log it. The week after he didn't log it. And then I saw him at the end of the month just making up the dates and sending it in for reimbursement. So I quickly learned that that's actually the way we do things here. So, and he was my boss. So again, how do leaders behave? Because all of that you've seen there, culture, leadership, recruitment, retention, induction, all then gives us our chance to perform. And we spend a lot of time focused on managing performance and working around high performance, low performance, all of that stuff. But all of that, those cylinders underneath give us our best opportunity to perform at an optimal level. And then, as I said before, we exit. And even through exit, what's our culture like? How do we exit people? There was a great case study for exits through COVID. A lot of people were being exited out of businesses at that point in time. Some would never return to that place based on how they were handled or how they were treated. And others just couldn't wait to get back in and understood and had respect for the process. So again, how do we exit our people? Is it with dignity? Are we just giving them the cardboard box and marching them? And who do we exit as well, that retention piece? So we thought this was really important those two models were really important for you, because we're now going to push you into groups to talk about your culture, because the heading, I believe, was engage and retain through culture. So what we'd like you to do now is we're just going to give you a minute or two to think about this. So it's a bit of an audit of your culture right now. How connected are your people to your values and behaviours and purpose? So we talked about purpose, your common purpose. You know, this is what binds people. This is what helps everyone understand what we're here to do. It's not what the finance department's here to do. It's not what the marketing team's here to do. It's what we're all here to do. I guess the first question is, do you know your values and behaviours? And if so, how connected are your people to them? Do they believe in them? Do they talk about them? Is it present, or are they just those picture frames on the wall that every sort of business has? The next one is, so that's what's going on now. The next one is more, I guess, descriptively, 3 words you would use to describe your culture. So it could be high performing, it could be trusting, it could be open, it could be toxic, it could be distrusting, mistrusting. It could be whatever it is, just 3 words, and try and round them out. If you think that you're a really collaborative team, don't have together collaborative and cohesive, because they sort of mean the same thing. So try and round out your culture with 3 words that you think you would be able to use to describe that. So hopefully that's helped and given you a bit of a frame for the day. What Anna is now going to do is push you into your groups. You'll be able to click a button and there'll be a facilitator within each of the teams. We'd like you to maybe spend a minute in those groups introducing yourself to each other, and that will just be your name, your position and your business. And then we'll be able to have a conversation for around about 15 minutes on where your culture's currently at. Okay. Any question, Anna will be around if you don't make the breakout rooms, but
we had some really good discussions in our group, discussions around, some people shared that their values and behaviours were really well entrenched throughout the organisation, and others said, look, we haven't really been exposed to them through the recruitment, through the onboarding phase, so a little bit of a mixture there. And one of the conversations we had is about how do you really bring them to life? And I wanted to share with you a story. When I worked at Owens Castley Real Estate, it was really apparent to me about 3 or 4 weeks in, once I had joined, was I was at the team meeting. It was a monthly team meeting with all of our people across the organisation. It's about 100 people. And somebody brought out this little bonsai plant. And the bonsai plant actually represented the custodian of the person that had lived the values and behaviours throughout the organisation in the last month. So it was handed around from employee to employee, and they actually stood up and they handed it over and said, I'm going to hand it to, for example, Andy in this case, for living the values and behaviours of X, Y, and Z. And they give examples and they tell stories about it. So what that actually showed to me was this is how people are rewarded. So we encourage people to live our behaviours, and that's how we bring them to life. And coming back to that empowerment model, that's around employee to employee. That's not leaders necessarily. That's saying everybody in the organisation is encouraged to live those values. And as the business grew, we found that one bonsai plant wasn't enough to go around. So we actually introduced it for all departments and all teams. And that was done and handed from people to people in monthly team meetings. It became part of the monthly awards, our quarterly awards, and it was our most prestigious annual award at the organisation. So there was such emphasis placed on people living the behaviours in the organisation is how we brought it to life. So I'm sure you had some really good conversations. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back into our breakout groups, and we're going to get into the really engagement and retention and some strategies. And what I really want you to get you to think about is about the culture that we want to create, where people feel really valued and trusted, empowered and connected to the purpose of the organisation. There's lots of different ways that we can engage and retain people. And I showed you earlier the slide around, we know that competitive remuneration is up there, but we know that that's not the main driver for people. People are looking for being connected to the culture of the organisation. So that way, I'm just going to show the next slide here. So this is what we're looking at in the next breakout rooms is, what behaviours do you see in a highly engaged team? And what are the reasons that people stay? So reflecting on that and taking a few minutes to do that. How do you measure engagement in your organisation? So we want you to think about that and then share that with your group. And then to share is, what are some cultural initiatives that you're doing in your organisation that productively impact engagement and retention? And then we're going to come back in and we're going to share around the groups the takeaways from that. So Anna's going to put us back. Aaron, do you want to say something? You're on mute.
I'll put that slide up for everyone. We couldn't.
Yeah, so you can't see that?
No.
Okay, sorry. Let me come back and share that. Sorry, everyone, I thought I was sharing. Just bear with me.
Okay, Simone, we've got on our sheets as well. So
Great, excellent. I'm
Yeah.
trying to bring that back, but if you've got those on your sheets, Aaron.
Yeah, we can share.
Great. Brendan. Yep, brilliant. And I'll work with Anna on getting that back up.
not a problem.
Excellent.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anna. Okay.
That one.
So we'll head back into our groups. Andy, I'm going to throw to you if you can give some key updates on the key initiatives that people are doing in their organisations that impact engagement retention. Then we'll work around each of the facilitators to share. And I do want to note to everybody as well, there's obviously some great ideas and initiatives that will come out of today. We will capture all of those and send them to you post-session, so you don't need to madly write them down. So we'll send them to you. So over to you, Andy.
Thanks, Simone. We do have a list, so I'm glad you've given everyone a heads up. So first of all, it started off with quite structured events. So twice a year, for example, there's an online event and it was fun. There's a quiz. They go into breakout rooms. There might be the annual sales conference, and after that, there's dinner. But then we started getting down into the softer things that are not so structured per se, like the once a year events. There are the yearly staff awards, and the wonderful thing to hear from the team was that during these awards once a year, people are, during the year, they are nominated as per a value. So they are demonstrating a value or behavior. So it was wonderful to show they are rewarding, acknowledging and rewarding behaviors. And then what happens is they go into a barrel and of the nominations, and at those awards, then they are awarded for that particular value. So that was wonderful that they are rewarding the behaviors. Then there are the wonderful things which were more around mindfulness. So there's yoga, there's who's available for a walk. It's in the diary, whoever's available. And there's mindfulness sessions as well that people can log on to at different times. One group did the push-up challenge. So it was a real sense of giving back to the community. So they had the push-up challenge. One wonderful person has the opportunity to do tree planting. So they're able to go and do working for the council, and so able to go and plant some trees, which was wonderful. Then there's lots of informal coffees. And then we started talking about what is the experience when you come into the organization. And many had a buddy system, and whereby they were working with someone for 10 days, and then this opportunity just to check in. One group also during the week, they have a half-hour session. That session is to share things personally and work-wise. So it's a real check-in with the team. So they go a bit deeper in terms of what may be impacting my performance. So a really lovely blend of formal, structured, rewarding behaviors, but then all of those nice opportunities to connect with people outside of the mechanics per se.
Great. Thanks, Andy. Brendan, do you want to share your key initiatives from your group?
We would piggyback on a lot of what Andy said, actually, Simone, ranging from things like social club activities and, just having a monthly get-together is something that was mentioned. Toolbox meetings where people were actually talking at a more grassroots level about actually not just the mechanical performance of the business, but how we are getting to know each other and hear each other's stories a little more. More weekly meetings, it was discussed to share success stories. Very often we can be driven by what's next, what's the next thing that we must achieve. and miss the opportunities to celebrate the success stories. So that was something we talked about. We talked a bit about the notion that most of our work would be enhanced if we make sure, and we'd be retaining people if we make sure that we are really clear on our common purpose. So coming back to Aaron's introduction with the high-performing teams model, it really struck a chord that if we have a team of people who buy into an agreed common purpose, that will indeed help us to retain people. They want to be affiliated with this organisation because of that. So they were pretty much in a lot of what Andy's already said.
That's great. Thanks, Brendan. And that purpose one's really important. Thank you. Craig, if you can share from your group. If Craig's still with us.
He is, but he's
sorry. Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah,
we'll be really quick because we double up and triple up on a lot of the stuff we first heard. But one of the points of differences we had was and I hope I can do this justice, is a outstanding barbecue trailer that they take around. One of our teams takes around and they do a cook up on site, and it enables people to interact, have conversations, and have a shared experience. And then the rest of the stuff that we spoke about had already been covered. Probably no point us going over again.
Thanks, Craig. Aaron?
Thank you. Again, a lot has been covered. We had a big theme on whips, so not just making them work in progress, but putting a dynamics element to them. There was an example that everyone looks forward to the Monday and the Friday one. They do a daily whip, but everyone looks forward to the Monday and the Friday one because it had to do with the weekend. So what did you do on the weekend and what are you looking forward to on the weekend? So that was a really, really good one. There was someone bring a topic. So someone actually come with a topic, or there is a topic and someone comes with something interesting around that topic and presents it for 5 minutes. So a bit of creativity and get to see what those person's driver is, and also an interest within mechanics, but a very empowered way to find out a little bit more. There were some interesting things around interviewing. We want to employ the whole person, not just their brain or their ability to interview. So giving the person the best chance to perform was a way of actually getting them to feel part of it. So that may include giving the questions in advance, like many other ways of doing it. And I think what it got down to, we talked about just the vulnerability and empathy of the leader within the team. If they feel connected to that person, they're going to be engaged and they're going to stay. So we talked about the skills within the team to be able to just be personable, and then that will then lead to more connection and retention.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Some excellent initiatives there. Just a couple to add from our group was around coming back to that purpose, was that connection to community and helping people and giving back. We know that that's important to people when they work for an organisation, is giving back. It's not just about coming to work, and those sorts of initiatives are volunteering with teams, aligning themselves to charities that are really important to them, and consulting with your people on what they are. What do they really connect with? The other one was around wellbeing focus, which we've talked about. But in addition to that, it's about the whole person. So moving away from just employee assistance programs with counselling and wellbeing, that's really important. But also, what sort of financial support or nutrition support do people need? So offering those sorts of advice and services to our people as well. And then a big one was around the reward and recognition, how we're rewarding and recognising our people for living those behaviours in the organisation. So some really great suggestions and initiatives. Thank you, everybody, to sharing those. Like I mentioned, we'll capture all of those and we'll send them to you. We've got a short time left, and I want to just show you the next slide. If we can bring that up, I'm going to show you a model that we use at Leading Teams. Thanks, Anna. This is called the Willing and Able model. So what we're talking about here is willing and able. When we're talking character and competence of people in our teams. So willingness is about engagement and connection with the culture. Do they buy in? Do they buy into our culture and our behaviours? And ability is obviously competence, skills and competence. So when we look at this, it's a really great tool that you can use and take away with you that shines a light on people's performance. So you can look at your team and go, where would I put people in? Are they willing but unable? There's probably reasons for that. Is that people who are new to your organisation? They've recently been promoted, for example. This is in the lower quadrant here of willing but unable. Then you move into your willing and able. That's your sweet spot. So this is where you want your people to be. Are they willing and are they able? And these are the people that you want to retain. So we're going to come back to that. In your able but unwilling, in the top left-hand side here is they're able but they're unwilling. It's about trying to understand why are they unwilling. How do we get them? What conversations do we need to have with them to bring them into our willing and able? Because these are our key retention people. And then obviously you're unwilling and unable. There'd be a question there about why are they with your organisation? So we haven't got time to explore that today, but we're going to talk about the willing and able. So what are you doing to engage and retain your willing and able people? We're going to send you this tool so you can think about what sort of development plans do I need to do to think about, I want to plot my team and the ones that are sitting in willing and able, how am I going to engage and retain them? What have I heard today? What are some of those key initiatives that I can use to engage and retain our people in the willing and able? And then what are those conversations I need to be having with the people in able but unwilling? And how can I get my people who are sitting in the willing but unable into that willing and able space? So take some time today and reflect on that. That's some homework for everybody to think about those initiatives that you've heard today. Aaron, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do now is just get your key takeaways from the day and words for the session. And if you could just put that in the chat for me or for us. So just put it in the chats. What were your key takeaways or actions for the day? And one word to describe the session, please. We're going to collect all those ideas and we're going to we're going to email that all out to you, as Simone said. So be prepared to get that information. So hopefully you haven't been just reliant on all your scribbles, but you will get all that information in a nice format. But we've really appreciated having you today. We've loved having the chats in the groups. It's always enjoyable for us as facilitators to hear different initiatives and different ideas. So thank you very, very, very much for spending the time to come today. And if you could put those words and takeaways in the chat, that'll add to our information that we send out to you as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for joining today. And enjoy the rest of your day.